Laser, co-founder and acting president of the Baltimore SharePoint Users Group. We are Maryland's longest running Microsoft-focused community learning institution. We've delivered session after session, month after month, year after year. One of the top questions I'm asked is, can I watch the replay of this session or another session? At the request of our longtime members within our community, I'm proud to launch the second installment of the Instant Vintage session, where we replay our well-received presentations from our endless vault of content. This month, we are hosting our second Instant Vintage session, where we will restream a session that was all well-received by our audience based on the attention and focus on AI in the marketplace, especially the focus on enterprise AI applications and support. We're proud to revisit Power to the Enterprise, building bots with Power Virtual Agents. Now, Power Virtual Agents enables teams to create AI-powered bots using a guided no-code graphical interface. And what you'll learn in this session is LaBrina Loving of Microsoft will walk through how both business users and developers can work together to build bots. She discusses software development lifecycle for bots with Power Virtual Agents and key points and best practices to consider. If you haven't witnessed LaBrina speak at our user group before or at other events and conferences, LaBrina Loving is a principal engineer at Microsoft with over 20 plus years of experience in the Microsoft stack. In her role, she is focused on helping startups and ISVs migrate to Azure and Power Platform to modernize their solutions for cloud adoption. She works with them directly to leverage the cloud for cutting-edge technologies like AI, IoT Edge, Serverless, and DevOps. LaBrina is a speaker who delivers sessions at conferences and users groups all over the world, international, and recently started a podcast called Disrupting the Cloud that highlights the journey of cloud newbies and professionals in cloud computing, especially women and people of color. She's heavily involved in STEM organizations, including Black Girls Code, TechGirlz, TEALS, and NSBE. LaBrina resides in the great state of Maryland with her husband, Shawn, bonus daughter, Sam, and dog pair programmer, Watson. Enjoy the Instant Vintage session number 2, Power to the Enterprise, building bots with Power Virtual Agents. I'm Shawn Laser. Enjoy the show. Own LaBrina Loving, she'll be sharing building bots with Power Virtual Agents. I will unshare my screen. If you have any questions during this presentation, please use the chat and let's get this show on the road. LaBrina.
Hey.
Come on down.
Hey everyone. So first off, thank you, Shadid, for that amazing introduction. And let me share my screen. Where's the share button?
Right at the bottom, in the footer.
Yeah.
Next to raise hand.
Oh, so I don't see that? Hold on.
Give me one moment. Moment. I got you. Give it a moment. Give it a moment. And then, let's see. Okay.
Okay. Oh, there I am. Okay. Okay. So let me share my screen now. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, now it says host disable participant screen sharing.
Hold on. Okay. Hold on.
Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
That's going to. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna put this over here for now. So first off, thank you for not only do you host the best SharePoint user group around, you basically have the best introduction ever. So
Thank
um,
you. Thank you.
thank you for that. As you mentioned, my name is LaBrina Loving, and today I'm going to be talking about building bots with Power Apps Virtual Agent. And I've actually, it's funny you mentioned this user group and how it launched some careers. This is actually the first user group, yeah, SharePoint conference that I went to and I volunteered at. And I saw all the speakers. I did not speak at this conference, but it did launch me into speaking at many other conferences. So the proof, as my grandmother said, the proof has been in the pudding. So thank you for that. So just a little bit about myself before I get started. Like everyone, I live and work in the same place. So I'm out of Clarksburg, Maryland. I've been doing this for a really long time now. It's kind of interesting to think about adding up the numbers. So I currently do work at Microsoft. I'm mainly focused on the cloud in Azure, and I have a really cool job where I get to work with a lot of ISVs, so independent software vendors, and startups who are building really interesting solutions on our cloud and help them kind of learn more about cloud, learn how to best optimize and build their solutions. So I'm kind of grooming like the next like Elon Musk's or whatever of the world on Azure. I've been married for 2 years now. So you can see my husband, my stepdaughter, and myself, we got married in Disney World. We got, like, I did have the foresight to get married right before the pandemic. So it actually worked out. And but we did not do our honeymoon before. So still haven't gotten that done yet. But I was mentioning I have a dog, Watson. He's kind of my pair programmer. And often my co-host for a lot of my presentations. So you might hear him adding in his additional commentary. And yeah, I love teaching. I do a lot of mentoring and coaching as well, a lot of working in a lot of STEM organizations. So that's just something I'm super passionate about. So I had been working a lot with a lot of enterprise customers before I got this new role at Microsoft on bots. It's been such a huge um, uh, tech thing in the enterprise. So how could we now take a lot of the questions that our help desk gets, calls to our service centers, how can we reduce the overhead for all of these things and still provide really good customer experiences and customer service? And instead have like our customer support teams focus on more higher level problems that people may face. So instead of calling up some desk and ask like, when is how do I fill out this form, or how do I what are your hours for the day, you could actually do that using a bot or a virtual agent. So that had been something that I had been working with a lot of organizations for a really long time, because several years ago, Microsoft released the bot framework, which is a full kind of coding solution framework where you can build bots. They could you could have a developer build the bot. It could integrate and get deployed to a number of places, websites. You could have the bot running in Teams. You could have it running in Facebook and a lot of other places. Very, very nice. But one of the biggest questions that I got from a lot of the customers that I worked with is that we really want, it's a lot of our business users that understand and own the customer support piece, and they have ideas about virtual agents and bots that they want to build, and it's a really cumbersome process to have to give requirements over to a developer and have them. And so I was actually, right before Power Apps Virtual Agents got released, I was actually working with a customer to build out this whole framework and interface for exactly what Power Apps Virtual Agents did. So I'm super excited because it actually saved me a lot of time. But I think what it did was it actually opened up the capabilities for anyone in the enterprise that wants to build a bot that accomplishes a task can do that now. So this is kind of in the past, right? There was this sort of business user has an idea, I want to create a bot, and they sort of hand it off to a developer and the requirements, and then then they get the bot back, right? So they're totally sort of out of the loop in building the bot. But now with Power Apps Virtual Agents, we've sort of removed that blocker and made the business user an integral part of the developer process. So now we have a solution where a business user can, in a very low code, no code way, build bots, and then they can actually incorporate skills that a professional, the developer, can build, and they can integrate those skills into the bot. So think of it similar to your Alexa or whatever your favorite virtual assistant is. That Alexa has its main thing, but you can incorporate skills that other third-party developers can build and integrate that into it. So a very similar way of thinking. And then it's built on top of all of the great cognitive services that Microsoft offers for language, for speech, for machine learning, for search, and for vision. So all of that is incorporated, but providing you a user interface that can be done and with low code. And then it also integrates because it is built on top of Power Platform, it integrates very well with all of the other Power Platform tools like Power Automate. So you can actually build a bot that leverages, if you have a workflow that you built in something like Power Automate, it can be there. It can be integrated into Power Apps. It can leverage Power BI. So all of those things are very, 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 very tightly coupled. And you can see there's all of the connectors and all of the flows that are made available through Power Automate can be made available through Power Apps Virtual Agents. And the way that you build virtual agents, there's sort of two paths. So one, you can go through the browser, which I will show, and then there's another way if you're using Teams and you're wanting to build a Teams bot, you could actually build a team spot in a low no code way as well, all within Teams. So now we have two ways. The Teams bot is a little bit newer, but the web has been there for quite a while. So let's talk a little bit about what the process is, and I'm going to show this in a little bit. But let's talk about the steps to creating a bot. There is a very simple user interface that you go. You get started creating what are called topics. Topics you can think of as your utterances or what you actually use, the words that you use to invoke something, right? So when you say something like, Alexa, what's the weather going to be today, right? Alexa wakes up to this utterance, like, what is the weather going to be? And then there is logic that she said that she thinks about now and says, okay, this person is asking for this particular command, and maybe it's named like weather or something like that. And then based on that, she pulls from a library of a workflow that happens to execute that command. So it's a very similar process where you will actually think of topics, and then you actually will create, well, what are some sample things that people will say to kind of kick off the spot? You can add all kinds of other things to do it. And then you can integrate the bot with backend, with Flow and other things. And then, as I mentioned, create custom skills. You test, and then you just publish it, and it's all done within the command or within the interface. So today, I'm sure there are Marvel fans out there. So, so today, with all that being included, now we have a complete integrated way that both business users, developers can work together and bring their best skill set to do what we've coined the phrase fusion development. Together. So I'm like a big Marvel fan, so I try to always bring in some kind of a reference to it in my presentation. So this is really the vision for working and building a bot. So as I said before, it's like now this is this kind of collaborative, cohesive working environment. And we'll kind of talk about that. It's sort of separate, but there's collaboration together. And I'll show that a little bit in the demo. Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool, yeah. It was, I saw that graphic before, but it was talking about something else, but then I kind of stole it and adopted it for that. So yeah. So this is kind of this is like now where we have a complete cohesive team building bots, building things together. And that's really what Power Platform, regardless of the product, is really meant to be. It's meant to be a platform that brings both citizen developers, business users, and pro developers together to accomplish tasks. So kind of no one's left behind in the process. There's no kind of putting things over the wall. So this talks a little bit more about the process. So developers, we all collaborate on an idea. The Power Virtual Agent developer, citizen developer will start building topics, entities, Canvas flow, gets an ID, which I'll show. Then the pro developer uses the tools that they know, uses whatever language that they know. So C#, JavaScript, Python, builds your skills. You have to build a manifest, which I'll show. You upload that custom skill to integrate, test, verify, and deploy. And then we all celebrate together. So I'm going to start showing a demo of what a bot that I kind of worked on, and kind of show all the steps and the process of building it. So the idea for this demo came from actually a real thing that we've been starting to do in our organization now that we're all virtual. I'm sure that a lot of people have come up with the idea of doing kind of virtual team like lunches or coffee breaks or things like that. So I thought about this would be a cool way to sort of showcase how to do this, leveraging the virtual agent. So I'm going to show you how to build TacoBot. And TacoBot is your friendly bot that will help you arrange a virtual meeting and schedule that meeting in Teams. So so without further ado, let's kind of go through what the demo would look like. So as I mentioned, there's two ways to create a bot with a Power Virtual Agents. The first, the Teams is one way, but you can just do it through the browser. So I'm here at web.powerva.microsoft.com. When I log in, you can see I have, you can see this canvas. I could create a new bot. So one thing, environments are basically just a logical separation for users or for applications. So you could create multiple environments, but so I'm going to create a new bot. I'll just show it's very simple. Create a new bot. You just give it a name. Give it a name, pick your language, and then pick the environment. I'm actually not going to create it because I've got one already done. So as I mentioned before, once you create your bot, you get this kind of landing page where it kind of shows you, okay, here are some things to get started. Here's how you test, here's how you publish. It's got a lot of the docs already here and some videos, which is kind of cool. Okay, so we talked about topics. So as I said, topics is sort of your main flow for your main utterance for kicking off your bot, like for waking your bot up or as you may. And so I've created a topic called schedule a virtual break. You could create a new topic here, does the same thing. So I've created this topic called, let me increase my font. To do that, called schedule a virtual break. And then underneath this topic, what you would do is you enter what are called trigger phrases. So trigger phrases are what are the different ways that you think someone might ask for this particular skill or for this particular task. And so what I've done is the recommendation is to give at least 10 trigger phrases, because what you're doing is you're training your bot to recognize words and phrases to invoke this particular skill. So I've created like 10 different phrases. You probably should vary them quite a bit, but just sort of I always say do 10 at the minimum. The more the merrier. I also always like to say that your bot it's sort of it's in training and it's learning and growing. It's sort of like a baby. It is your baby, right? So you give it a couple phrases to start out with to teach it. It acquires and grows exponentially as it gets more information, as it runs more. But then there's always a little bit of like course correction that needs to happen over time, right? So you just always have to kind of keep that in mind, the process of growing and learning your bot. You can do things like create entities that are associated with it, that are standard, sort of like what I would call nouns. So things like age or color, so that can actually enhance the process for your bot. And then I'm going to show what the one step that I'm going to do to kind of really further enhance our bot is what I want our actual pro developer to do is do the work or create a skill that actually will leverage Microsoft Graph and do some other validation and other things that as a low-code developer, I may not be able to do within the bot, within virtual agents. So I'm going to have my pro developer create a skill. And so you can actually go here and create a skill and upload that skill manifest. So I'm going to show here a little bit of the code that I wrote to do kind of more of the back-end work for scheduling my virtual lunch, right? So if you're not familiar, I'll have links at the end of the presentation on how to get started with using Bot Framework as a pro code developer. But there's a lot of good guidance on it. But essentially, you're really just creating. You can think of creating a bot for pro code developers is really just creating a web API that has some endpoints on it. So, and you can see that here where I basically just have, when it gets started, it basically calls a controller, and here's the route API messages. And then and it calls a post message here. And when that post message starts, I'm going to start my bot off. And this is my bot, Taco Bot. So just to show a little bit of the code, I know it's a lot, but basically, there's this task called on message activity async, and that sort of kicks off everything. And I've got this step that does fill out my virtual break async. So this is basically creating a conversation flow that's keeping track of where I am in the conversation. And then I'm going to ask a series of questions. So you can see kind of what my conversation flow looks like. So I've got a question. So if you're here, then I'm going to say like, hey, let's get started creating your virtual break. And then I'm going to, after that, then I'm going to say, hey, like, please provide a brief description of your event. And then I keep kind of going down. And then I'm going to ask, like, when do you want to start when do you want your virtual event break to start? And so I've set it up as a start date. And here I've actually can throw in some validation. So I'm validating as well that, person saying things as a date time. And then keep going, ask for the end date. and then keep going. Ask at the very end, what I do is I call this this code called add virtual break to teams. And so this is actually where my skill is more interesting, because I'm actually just, and I commented out a bunch of stuff, but I basically am creating using MS Graph, which is sort of the unified interface for interacting with anything in Microsoft 365. So from SharePoint to Teams to Exchange Online, there's this unified interface called Graph. And so I'm using Graph to create what's called an online meeting. I'm using the information that my bot collected, start date and end date, and then using the description. I was kind of playing around with this earlier. So, and then that just creates your online meeting. So very straightforward. Yeah, this is something that your pro developer will do. So once your pro developer has created this code and created this skill, they will actually deploy that and I'm actually have it deployed to Azure, so it has a URL. And the important part of this is that your developer creates what's called a manifest. And the manifest is just kind of metadata about the bot skill. So you can see I've created this manifest file. It's got some descriptions of it, some tags here for what it can be, and then importantly, it's describing what the endpoint is. So when we're going to upload this manifest or point to this manifest in the virtual agent. And so the important things here is that it describes where the endpoint is. So this is where my bot is going to be hosted. As I said, I've got it hosted in Azure and an app service. And then I have to give it what's called an app registration, which is basically app registration is an identity for my bot in Azure Active Directory. And then once I do that, so that's kind of talking about how if anyone who wants to invoke this skill, how do they get to it? And so this information is very important. And then the activities are kind of what the bot does. So this is that information. And so this is actually what our pro developer will be working on their machine. And so they will deploy their bot. We've got it all working. It's great. I can actually show, so if I go here in my website, so if I bring up this website, manifest, you could see this got deployed. You can see this got deployed here. So I'm going to actually leverage this and use this website for my virtual agent here. So when I add my skill, the one thing that you do actually have to do as well, you can think of, so you're adding a manifest to, you're giving the low code developer, your Power Agent, virtual agent developer, the URL to the manifest. In return, they will actually give you their bot ID, and this bot ID you will actually put as a setting in your settings, because basically you want to limit, you don't want really anyone to be able to call your skill that you've created. So this basically you will put in your allow callers, that says, okay, only bots with these three IDs are allowed to call my skill. So it's sort of like a secret handshake between the Power Virtual Agent developer and the kind of pro code developer. I sort of like to think of it that way. Okay, so what I would do is just put in the URL of this manifest or of the manifest, and then it would upload the skill. So you could see I've actually done that here. So one of the things you do have to do is say what the privacy policy is and create one. But you could see it, oh, that's weird. It actually uploaded my manifest. You could see it's the same manifest that I was showing before. And then now that I have this skill, now as a Power Virtual Agent developer, I can now incorporate this skill into my fully working bot. So let's actually see this all working together now. So I've got a full working, I've got my bot set up. So now I'm actually going to edit my bot. Where is my bot? Oh, sorry. Great. So, so I've got my trigger phrases. So now I'm actually going to click on go to authoring canvas. And authoring canvas is where I can actually go and start building out my bot. So the first thing in your authoring canvas is it's going to start with trigger phrases. So it's going to say, basically, anytime someone says one of these trigger phrases in my bot, I'm going to start kicking off this process. So you could actually add different things, and I'll show what this is. But the first thing that I'm going to do is you could add what's called a message. So I could add a message. So I've added this message that says, hey, I'm Taco the bot, and I can help you plan and schedule virtual breaks. Great. Then I want to add a question. So I can ask a question, and there's multiple questions that I could do. So basically, I want to ask a question. I want to say that it's a multiple choice question, because basically what I want to do is ask the user, okay, what type of virtual break do you want to do? So I've asked that question and I've provided these options. But you can see there's a lot of different types of questions that I could ask, or choice options I could do. So I'm just using using these a multiple choice kind of question. And then what I do is I'm going to save that as a variable called event type. So now, when I added these options, basically it created these conditions, right? So it created a condition for if it's breakfast or coffee, if it's lunch, or if it's a snack, then I'm going to do different things. So I could add another node. So you could see here, there's different, as I build out my workflow or for my bot, there's just different actions I can take. So I could ask a question like it did above. I could ask another clarifying question. I could call an action. And calling an action means that I could either create a flow. So this would actually launch me into Power Automate. So I could kick off like another Power Automate. I could do some authentication, or here, as I said, I can call my skill that my developer called. So I'm going to call my skill, right? Other things I can do, as I said, I can show a message. I can redirect to another topic, right? So sometimes you might think about creating like a megabot, right? That can handle everything from scheduling a virtual office break to showing you your calendar, and those might be in smaller individual bots. So you can get really creative and really modular with the way that you build the bot. Or you could end the conversation and you can end it. You could also do things like transferring to an agent or end with the survey. So that is pretty much show my action, right? So I wanted to end with this action. So let me go here and just go into my bot again. So now I want to test this. So this is actually the process of doing that. So I'm actually going to just refresh my screen or refresh my bot. So now I'm going to test the bot. So I'm going to test it by entering one of the utterances. So I'm going to say schedule coffee. And so the nice thing is that as I enter my utterance, it's recognized, hey, like you're in this. So I'm going to step you. I'm actually debugging, helping you debug your bot. So it did exactly what it said, what I asked it to do, right? So it, let's scroll up a little bit. It, did step one. It's like, hey, I recognize this utterance. I'm going to first send a message. So here's the message that is sent. And then here's my next message is that it says, same message to start. Let me know what you want to build. So great, did that. I'm going to pick lunch. Okay, because that's the one that I did it. Okay, so now it's into my skill, right? So now this is kind of this black box of code that I had my pro developer build. Okay, and you can see this is the code that we saw before that's in my bot. So it says like, let's get started creating your virtual break. And like, what do you want to title it? And so I'm going to say, let's do tacos. Okay, great. So I can provide a description, and this is all part of that skill that my pro developer built. So great, provide a description, eating, and I'm just going to say eating tacos. So then I say like, when do you want your virtual break to start? And notice I'm going to say something like tomorrow at noon. And so the code that I wrote actually can handle these kinds of things and interpret that. It will know that tomorrow at noon is 1/21, 2022 at noon. And then, so I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to say tomorrow at 1 p.m. Okay, great. Great. So then it says schedule my virtual break. Now, unfortunately, my the Teams tenant that I was working in, I'm like having some troubles logging in, but this would actually go out and schedule my everything based on my code in my Teams tenant. So this is sort of an end-to-end process, somewhat simplified, but you could see very simple, putting together these steps in a UI, incorporating your skills from your developer, and having like a fully working bot that can be built pretty easily. Other things, as I mentioned, is you could then publish your bot to a number of different places. You can publish it to a website. You could publish it to Slack. So all the channels that were originally supported in our bot framework are also supported here. And then even things like built-in security, how you do authentication are all there. So all very, very simple things to do. And of course, if for SharePoint users, you could use this bot to do all kinds of things in SharePoint through automated, through some of the connectors through Power Automate. So if I wanted to have a bot that created a list item in SharePoint, I could actually have that bot go through and use Power Automate to connect to a SharePoint list and create an item based on using some of the controls and connectors. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's pretty much for our demo. So let's go back to a slide here. So we've gone through this part. Okay, so one of the, so Brad did ask a question. Does the bot recognize typos, or do you have to configure for possible error? So that's part of the kind of AI that's built in that I was talking about in the learning of the bot, right? So no, I don't think that I specifically said, I didn't use a phrase that's exactly like. That was one of my utterances. You could use something similar and the bot using natural language understanding and AI can do that. So if I mistype, let's like try it, I guess. So, oops. So if I, let's go to my top, let's go back and look at this. And if I were to test it out and like mistype coffee or whatever, it should make that a leap because it's using natural language understanding. So if I go back to my test and restart this, let's actually do, and I'll just do it without me. Yeah, so it knows those things. We could push it a little bit further. And I also did not do anything, right? So you could see I did schedule T and it says it didn't understand that. So, oh, it's also because I'm kind of like in the wrong front. I have to restart. So if I did like schedule T, let's see if it kind of does that. Right. So I did schedule T. That means that I need to kind of broaden my learning of it. So maybe I need to, in my training, in my trigger, I should not just be really specific about coffee or like this. I could start giving it like different food options and it would actually learn a lot faster. But I was probably a little too narrow in the way that I did my like the training for your bot. So one of the things that I always encourage people to do, which is another thing, is when you're creating bots, is to roll it out slowly to a couple people. You can get analytics from your bot on all the phrases everything that happened. So whenever your bot kind of failed, right? So I could incorporate a path in this that says, oh, if the bot's not able to understand, send a message to me so I can understand, like figure out, like, and do some troubleshooting, right? Because it's like error handling. So I could do that. And over time, then as I kind of teach it and it learns more, you will see that it will exponentially get better, right? If I did schedule tea, schedule brownies, schedule, like it will actually figure out like, oh, like she's talking about some kind of food thing. So then if you were like something like that, it'll actually like grow incrementally and learn like incrementally faster. So really good question. Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, so on current slide. Yeah, oops, I want to go back here. So one of the things a lot of people ask as well is sort of when do I use what? So as notorious for Microsoft, we have lots of tools to do lots of things and lots of tools to do the same things. So what do I do? What do I use when? So I kind of put together this this sort of chart that talks through, when to use what when, right? So if you want to easily create bots, don't want to manage infrastructure and worry about deployment, this is your path. No code platform, this is your path. If you want a fully powerful framework and that, developers can, fully bake into, that gives you everything, you can use bot framework. It actually cuts across both. Yeah, so there's not really like a UX layer you created, so all of that. And then this is where like you can easily extend and use things like cognitive services. So you could do things like doing language translations or vision and all kinds of things like that. So this is like a really good, this is an important thing. So like difference. So, building your own. So the SharePoint Online and Teams. Yeah, so there is a way to bring the bot into SharePoint Online and host it in a SharePoint site as well. So you would sort of follow the same path as just hosting it in a website. But there's actually, I believe there is a part to actually host a bot. So yeah, that definitely can be done. Yeah, so the one difference like that was brought up about the natural language. So you can actually create a natural language, your own natural language models, right? Let's say a good example is in your company, there's we've created a natural language model based on our own training. But let's say a lot of companies have, Microsoft especially has so many acronyms, so many ways of doing things. You might want to create your own model and train it. So that's something that's kind of only available, in a fully baked solution where you're actually going to have to do code. So this is actually a really good like kind of example of how to sort of use both and when to use both when. Okay, because I am a big believer of giving people homework. But if you do want to get more information about building bots with Power Virtual Agent, you can go and look at building skills. You can start with our resources for Power Virtual Agents. Just go, as I said, go to powerva.microsoft.com, start building your bot. And then I do, like if you go out to the licensing site, it kind of covers some of the licensing. I'm not a licensing expert, so I always just refer people to the site. And then, yeah, that is pretty much so it. I have Hulk smashed this.